The RPD is a pretty interesting forerunner of some of the modern squad-type machine guns that we have today. We have one here, or we have several here, actually. Now, this is actually introduced, well, it's designed in 1943 as part of a proposed new squad system of weapons that would share a cartridge, which I'm sure we'll come to in a moment. But it's not introduced until 1953. This one's actually dated 1953. So we're very fortunate to have quite an early, well, essentially as far as first year of introduction, if not first year of production. So it takes 10 years to get this thing going. There was a war on after all. And it's a bit of a new concept in machine guns. The key thing about this weapon, as part of a squad system of weapons, and this will be familiar to some of the ex-service folk out there, in terms of what the British Army tried to do as well later on. But this is the standard Kalashnikov 7.62 by 39mm round. But as you can see, in this case, it's in non-disintegrating metallic link. So they're trying to standardize on the quote-unquote assault rifle round for all of the major weapons in the section, in the squad. This is a drum magazine. This is for the RPK, glorified heavy-barreled AK rifle used as a support weapon. This is a true drum magazine. It has a spring in there. Essentially, it's a clockwork system with a feed tower with lips on it, like a magazine. What we see on the RPD, often referred to as a magazine or just as a drum, which implies it's a mag, it's not. It's a belt box, but it's a round belt box that clips very securely to the weapon and feeds just through this flap here. I think they're taking a cue from what the Germans were up to at the time with the sort of snail drum setup on their machine guns. Something very sturdy. It does add a bit of weight back onto the gun, unfortunately, but it means your belt is contained and, I suppose, constrained. So it's not flapping around, getting snagged up, snarled up, causing a feed stoppage. It's able to feed straight out of this container. And when you want to change, when you want to reload, there's a lever under here. We flip that out the way, and the drum just pops off. We can set that aside and obviously fit a loaded one. Drills-wise, you could run it like a GPMG or a similar light machine gun, general-purpose machine gun. Opening top cover, of course. But with this, with a starter tab on the belt, you can load it with the top cover down, which is an advantage over some systems. Heat's a bit of a problem. You have this fairly iconic handguard on this weapon. If you know the RPD, you recognize it through this. That can get pretty hot. And there's no replaceable barrel. Part of the remit to make this a very light weapon, very flexible weapon, was no removable barrel. It's partly what makes the Bren so hefty, and so they did away with that. You can kind of think of this as the granddaddy of modern lightweight machine guns like the Minimi. Known, of course, in the US, it's the M249. The idea of something that it's not necessarily a gun team weapon with a crew of two that's operating it in a precise short burst, always off the bipod. It's more flexible than that. It's designed to be used from the assault position, from the hip. It's in the manual, and this handguard is designed to facilitate that, to wrap the hand around it and control recoil and attack a trench, whatever feature you're assaulting. There's even a modern term, assault machine gun, which is maybe questionable as to technical validity, but it does it works on two levels. One, that this thing is lightweight and flexible, like a Minimi, relatively short and short-barreled, so you can carry it forward in the attack with just one soldier. And also in terms of it being that literal assault rifle cartridge type that enables all of that. Now, of course, that brings that's a compromise and causes some problems, and it does get binned off. So it's out of service early 1960s in the Soviet armed forces, but it's already proliferated, just like all the other Soviet-produced small arms. So it's out there being used by others through the Cold War period, and there are even still some showing up today. Now, as ever, the appearance of a weapon system in Ukraine can mean one of two things. Either it's available, so they're using it, or it's a choice. It's quite possible that this is at least partially a choice. If we think back to Vietnam, Navy SEALs in particular are known for having cut down the barrel on these things. Now, I'm not recommending that our Ukrainian friends do that. Who cut down the barrel to make it even more of a, quote, assault machine gun. But even in its traditional arrangement, which I say is probably what you want to use it in, it's pretty capable. You know, looking at more like, well, I think the book says 650 rounds per minute. It's more like 700, raising to 800 on the third gas setting. So it can lay down a lot of hate, as our American military friends would put it. And since we're looking at essentially trench combat in large part here, firing it on the advance, it's flexible. You can put the bipod down. The bipod's not adjustable, which isn't great, but for this kind of rough and hasty attack, that kind of thing, you can lay down supporting fire in short bursts, or you can jump down into a trench with it and assault with it. So any shortcomings that it may have had in sort of traditional Soviet open field warfare are kind of neither here nor there. As long as it's in good condition, this thing is going to be a boon, provided you can feed it, of course, with the correct ammunition. To me, at least, that the Soviets did not follow this up with an improvement. They pivoted. So they binned the belt-fed. That whole idea of a belt-fed, smaller caliber machine gun. And they went for essentially a Kalashnikov on steroids. So this is a Yugoslavian version of the RPK, but that's what they went with. So the same cartridge, they're keeping that logistical advantage of the same round for most of the section's weapons at least, but they've reverted to the AK design. So they go for essentially a longer, heavier barrel, and on the original, it's a beefed up receiver as well. This one's a machined one, so it doesn't need that. And they've gone, instead of 250 round belts linked together and put in a belt box, it's a 40 round box mag. So like an AK mag, but bigger, of course. Or it's a proper high capacity drum. So they kept the idea of a very flexible, lightweight squad automatic weapon. But it's a different take. It's more like the LSW. And in fact, these two weapons, the RPD is a forerunner of the Minimi, which ironically replaced the light support weapon in British service. So we keep going around in circles and sort of reinventing the same ideas. It's really more important what you do with it, of course, than the design of the weapon.
Thanks for watching. For more from Forces News, like and subscribe to our channel.